Everyone, hope you're doing well. As you know, I have not seen Guilherme play, so I thought, you know what? I'm going to speak to somebody that has. Please welcome Nathan from the Copper Club. The link to his YouTube channel is in the description below, where you'll find our favourite of the channel, Cal, over there, as well as his co-host, Nathan. Welcome to Hammers Chat. How you doing?
Yeah, very well. Thank you for the invite. Always happy to talk about South American links. And as you said before we jumped on the podcast, a lot of people claim to know people through YouTube compilations. But here at the Copper Club, we are very much the opposite. We're the guys doing the hard graft throughout the 12-month period and beyond, getting to know these players. So you're actually getting first-hand sort of opinion on each and every sign-in.
I'm looking forward to it, actually. This is going to be an education for me as well as the subscribers. I'm just going to hand it over to you and keep it very general at the start. Can you just tell us about him in your own words?
Yeah, he's sort of one of the trio of Palmeiras' forward talent who is on the move, and he's the oldest. If we talk about Esteval, who's off to Chelsea, and Endrick, who's gone to Real Madrid, so if we're talking about him in the same bracket, he's a player to get very excited about. And when I saw the links with West Ham, it really surprised me, but in a good way. It's nice to see another Premier League club going straight to the source. We've seen a fair few clubs at the moment doing that, but to be sustainable, I think more teams need to do that. So really refreshing. There were links with Saudi Arabia and all that, but I knew that was nonsense, to be honest with you. But look, Luis Guilherme, 18 years of age, predominantly plays on the right wing. We've seen some people arguing on Twitter that he plays in different positions, and I think he is very much moldable. You can put him into that number 10 role, perhaps number 8, as Cal suggested on our podcast yesterday. But overall, a really exciting player, and one who probably fits the Premier League the best out of him and Esteval to begin with. I think Esteval's an unbelievable talent, but there'll need to be work on there from like his physicality point of view and stuff like that, which comes with age. Now, Luis Guilherme is only 18, but he's a very strong player already, more direct. Esteval was sort of one of those players who keeps the ball glued to his foot and wants to beat people all the time, where Luis Guilherme, why I think he could work in the Premier League long term is he knocks the ball into space. He uses his strength. He knows how to hold the ball up, shrug players off. And I'm addressing that first because it's a question I hate when ever a youngster from South America goes across to Europe, especially the Premier League. It's the questions I get hit on Twitter all the time of, is he strong enough? Is he going to be able to cope with the physicality of the league and all that? And obviously I just turn around being like, the 16, 17, 18-year-olds, they will develop, and Premier League clubs, established Premier League clubs like West Ham, will put them on a proper gym plan. And I hate having to repeat myself there, but you only have to look at Luis Guilherme. He's strong, really exciting player. A little bit more robotic to Esteval, probably not in the same bracket, but another player who could really take off in the next 3, 4, 5 years. So a really exciting, skillful player, more likely to knock it into space 10, 15 yards and chase onto it when the defender's showing his cards, so to speak, or made a mistake. He likes to use his pace and his long stride to exploit that area rather than keeping the ball close to him. But I think that could perfectly fit into West Ham's system, outside in, obviously.
You spoke there about how he's been played on the right-hand side. Cal sees him as potentially becoming number 8, and he could be molded into number 10. In your opinion, where do you think he's most likely to end up playing predominantly?
It's interesting. He's being used completely on the right wing at the moment, and Palmeiras are a team who should be really exciting, but they're not at the moment, and we're not seeing him, because I think a lot of West Ham fans will probably see he's played like 25, 30 senior games, lacking goals, lacking assists, but he's obviously been, last season he had like 19, 20 games where he was getting 10, 15 minutes here and there, and he's mainly been trialled on the right wing, and we're seeing an abundance, maybe just me out of South America at the moment, but an abundance of left footers playing on the right wing, and he does fit that profile, and he's very good in tight spaces. So I know I just said about him liking to knock it down the wing, but when he's being pressed by 2 or 3 players, he has the skill set to get out of those areas, which is why probably he's been playing predominantly on the right wing. But with left footers sometimes being a little bit more predictable coming in, shall we say, as a number 10, I think that will help his game, to be honest with you. His weakness is probably his right foot. He isn't predictable in terms of always coming inside. Like, he can work down the line, but at the moment his right foot is pretty weak. That needs work. He's only 18, so that's fine. We don't have to hammer him too hard on that. But I think if he was going to play direct through the middle, that will offer a huge opportunity for him to open up, score more goals, offer some assists. Again, I think that's something which needs to be worked on in terms of he's got a really powerful left foot, but sometimes he gets into those areas and he's not 100% sure what to do. However, in the Copa Libertadores, Palmeiras recently played Independiente del Valle, one of the up and coming teams in Ecuador, and he won they won the game 3-2, and it was down to Luis Guilherme in the last minute where he's cut inside, but he's wrapped his foot around it, and it caught me off guard. It was an unbelievable finish, but it's like, why haven't we seen more of that from Luis Guilherme? But if he's going to go to West Ham and learn from Kudus or Bowen, those players who can help him, and obviously the coaching staff will probably be a lot more advanced than what's going on at Palmeiras' first team at the moment. They're all things which can be adapted to help him improve. So maybe I don't side with Cal completely on the number 8. That is an option for him, but number 10 or on the right wing, like, it's good to have options really, then, rather than not particularly knowing or pigeonholing, which is happening at the moment. And look, he's 18, so that could completely change. He's also played on the left wing for occasions as well, so there's a rotation system there. If he moves across to West Ham and like they find him to be more of an adaptable player, then you don't have to pigeonhole him just onto that right wing. It seems to be, it's funny, isn't it? When I was growing up, it was left wingers on the left wing, and now it's left footers on the right wing predominantly. And I never really understood that concept completely. But he can play anywhere across that line. However, he could be really dangerous as a number 10 just because of the way he likes to bulldoze his way through.
In terms, obviously, we covered his physicality and how he moves with the ball. How is his creative output? Because, like you said, when you look at the numbers, they're not there. There is obviously reasons for that. Like you said, there's limited minutes. And when there's a player 18, I tend to gauge them by how many appearances they're getting. I think that's the barometer. If you're 18, you're getting first-team football, you are a good talent, in my opinion, because there's not that many that get it. But in terms of his creative side, because essentially if he is going to occupy the number 10 or even out on the wing, you're going to look for him to get involved and start creating chances for others. Does he have that side to him already, or is that something that will need to be developed on?
Something which needs to be developed on, but something which also needs to be unlocked, to be honest with you, and go into a club who can recognise that. And West Ham have clearly scouted him and picked up on his talents. Now, the links have been loose before, but the likes of Liverpool and PSG have been sniffing around like big names for his age. So there's clearly something there. I think his decision making just needs to sharpen up a little bit in and around the 18-yard box. He gets into areas where he should shoot. And then what makes him look good on YouTube compilations is him fiddly feet inside the box, wriggling past defenders. But when the clip cuts to the next bond, they don't realise that he's gone too far necessarily. He's done the hard work. Okay, he can beat a man. He's strong, long stride. He can get into these positions where he can either shoot from 18, 20 yards or look to release a player. But at the moment, his judgment isn't quite there. Now, I'm not saying that's a red flag. If he goes to a Premier League club, then obviously then that can help him. Whoever's there will help him develop his game further. And there could be, if we unlock any potential there, then he's going to be a real asset to the club. But it's just a case of, at the moment, I'm not sure he's getting the right level of coaching, or not sure exactly. Palmeiras don't know exactly where to play him or what to do with him, because they've had Esteval, Endrick, and Luis Guilherme, and a couple of like senior players as well, all trying to fit them into a system. And there's a lot of pressure on them to succeed there. And every game, like, look, Esteval since signing for Chelsea has been like 0 assists, 0 goals. And now that's what a lot of West Ham fans are doing with Guilherme, going, oh, look at his stats. But I think if he is to be nurtured in the right environment, he does have that creativity. He does have that skill set. He just needs to be in an environment to take his game to the next level. And I feel like, as the names I've just mentioned previously, who's currently still at the club with Bowen, Kudus, and everyone else in and around, they're not bad players to learn off, right? So hopefully, like, learning under those players as well as the coaches and everyone else, like, I think it's a really good environment to step into. And it's really pleasing to see him not just drift to a top 4 side and then waste away getting a few minutes here and there. Don't get me wrong, I don't expect him to just waltz straight into the side. It will take him a bit of time. But as I've previously said about this transfer, Vinicius Jr. went across to Real Madrid 18 and suffered for the first 2 years, and look what he's achieved over the last 12 months. So it's a case of him adapting to a new environment, learning a new role, which the manager wants him to sort of solidify and make his own. But everything's set up there for him. So I know I spoke about a few negative things, but it's only tweaks here and there. And there's a real player to be excited about. And for the reported fee of 25-30 million, it's a very good deal.
You're a man that does likes highlight reels as much as I am. I'm all for this. I'm all for the anti-highlight stuff. No. I don't like it either. In terms of, like you said, there was some big clubs sniffing around him, like PSG and Liverpool. When you heard that we were the ones informed he's likely to come to West Ham, what was your reaction to that? Did you think that it was a bit ambitious for us, it's a bit of a coup, or is this the right level of club for him?
It surprised me, but look, I'm a Nottingham Forest fan, and over the last year or so, we've signed Danilo, who was Palmeiras' best midfielder, and now Maria from Corinthians, and he could be off to someone like Real Madrid in the summer. Like, nothing's particularly surprising me anymore, and I really enjoy seeing teams outside of that top 4, top 6 bracket going direct to the source, recognizing this talent. Because if Luis Guilherme went to Liverpool and had a half good to, well, fulfilled his potential in that first season, his value would be 80, 90, 100 million, and West Ham wouldn't be able to afford that. But if it flipped around on the other side, where inevitably, if he does perform well for West Ham over a year or two, he will make a move to a top club, but then you profit from it as well. So it's nice to see more than just 1 or 2 Premier League clubs dipping their toes into that market. But it did shock me, it did surprise me, but it's really nice to see a lot of teams now, lower league Premier League teams, or I don't want to sound offensive, outside of the top 4 sides, going straight to the source rather than waiting for them to be proving themselves in Europe, even if it isn't like the Portuguese or La Liga, stuff like that. I think it's the right approach to make. So it is surprising me, but it's refreshing to see. And I know that these sort of players will get opportunities at these clubs rather than if they were to go to the likes of Man City, Liverpool, PSG, etc. So yeah, it surprised me, but in a positive way.
Well, I'm going to pick your brains about 2 other Brazilian-based players now. First of all, when I talk about Wesley, at this moment, it's incredibly unlikely that we'll make a move for him. However, the reports were that is why Tim Steidten initially went to Brazil to get Bruno and Wesley. I'd almost like to compare a little bit of Wesley and Guilherme. While they play in different positions and they perhaps have different styles and different experiences, it did feel a bit like one or the other to some extent for West Ham. What's Wesley like as a player? And if you were a West Ham fan, would you be more excited by Guilherme or Wesley?
That's a very good question. I think I'd be more excited by Guilherme, to be honest. Out of the trio, if you've gone to Brazil looking for players and you're coming back with Luis Guilherme, then I think it's job done, to be honest with you. Wesley is a huge talent. I think he's maybe a little bit further along because Corinthians are a side who like to get youth products in the shop window straight away, when they've performed at like under 20 level, which is taken very seriously in Brazil. And last season, he was very similar to Guilherme in terms of getting minutes, no assists, no goals, but there was promise there. Now this season, he's come into the frame and just exploded, really, and he's performed really well in an average Brazilian side, to be honest with you. So it just goes to show that Luis Guilherme's only just started getting minutes here, and Abel Ferreira doesn't know what to do with him. Now, imagine if he was at Corinthians and he'd had that season last year, we may be talking about it in the same way. So I think it's the unknown, but the potential excites me with Guilherme. But I think Corinthians are in a situation where they need to sell this summer. So they're holding out for anything, a similar fee, 25, 30 million. So I'm not sure if West Ham are going to go and spend 60 million and take 2 supposed gambles. But I know Dortmund have been very interested. So again, it just shows that there's a lot of potential out there. And look, 25, 30 million sounds like a lot of money, but fast forward 12 months time, we're having this conversation and both of them could be talked about for 60, 70 million plus, then you know that West Ham have done a good deal there. So not just saying it for the podcast. I think Luis Guilherme is definitely the most exciting there.
Yeah, I think the proof's in the pudding. Literally at the City going with Murillo, like you said, he came over. I'd never heard of him. I remember the first game I watched with Nottingham Forest, and he was in the lineup, and it was literally a case of who's this guy? So I had to look on the app while he was playing, and this guy's bloody good. And I thought it was maybe just a bit of a one-off, and then it was like, is it a purple patch? And it's like, no, he's just damn good, this guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you've got the perfect example there of somebody that had a handful of appearances, made the big move to Nottingham Forest, and now looks like he's already ready for the big move to a Champions League club already. So I think the proof is literally at the club you support. In terms of
sorry,
yeah, go on. No, go on.
there's so many players out there where you can almost recognise now. Like I suppose there's hundreds and hundreds of players in this league, and it's probably the top 1%. But there's always at the moment like 15, 20 players across the Brazilian league predominantly where you can just see a different mentality when they get on the ball. When there's someone who's started making senior appearances when they're younger, catches my eye, and I'll sit and watch them and be like very much like, they have the potential here to perform in Europe. You almost get that knack now as to be like ability on the pitch. Obviously, 99% of it comes on, can they adapt to a new culture, new environment, new language? All of that comes into play, which a lot of people don't consider. But the more I'm watching South American football, it's becoming apparent as to which ones can work in Europe. Obviously, a lot can go wrong. And my claim about Maria was very good, but I think Luis Guilherme is sort of in that same bracket. The potential is there, and the mentality for me, from considering he's 18, just goes to show like the potential and how high his ceiling is. And look, he's been playing with Hendrick since he was 14, and it was those two players in that age group which were being spoken about ever since. So, yeah, something really positive there. I just wanted to add that in.
Fabrizio Bruno, at the minute it's off in terms of the personal deal, but it doesn't feel like it's dead. It just feels like it's likely not to happen. So I wanted to pick your brains about him, really, because he's obviously a far more established player at 28 years old, but he's just got into the Brazil squad. And while you, with Guilherme, you'd be buying potential, it feels a bit like with Bruno, if we did get him, you'd be buying somebody that's almost ready for the first team. Is that the case? And what can you tell us about him?
Yeah, for the reported fee of around 10 to 12 million euros, it seemed like a good coup. You wouldn't get that in Europe for someone who's established. You'd have to go out and spend 30, 40, 50 million, and you're only going to get a good 2 or 3 seasons, which isn't a lot for the money, is it? But yeah, Fabrizio Bruno, old-fashioned centre-back, hits them hard but pacey, reads the game well. Not the best with his feet. He's not going to be the most technical, but overall, like if you are going to take a chance, and there's not many teams are taking a chance on people over the age of 25 now, they're not almost considered. Why this one probably caught me off guard a little bit more, as terms of like, okay, people are actually willing to take a punt at this age. But as you said, like I think most people would have seen him in that friendly against England at Wembley. Obviously kept a clean sheet, and it was a bit of an indication as to what he's like, really. And I just think he's an all-round solid centre back. He's got it's just his passing ability is okay, but if you want to get the ball down and play it a little bit and wanting to use that style all the time, you're not going to use him to his best. It's more of like he's very physical, he's very good in the air, he can read the game, he'll head it, thump it, one of those really. So the opposite to what a lot of people think Brazilian footballers are. But for a centre-back, you're ticking a lot of boxes, to be honest with you, and almost going bargain hunting, really. Getting a Brazilian international for around 10 million would have been a really good coup. So interesting to see what's going on with the contract side of things. Perhaps potentially, I think they said that West Ham lowballed him in terms of contract. I think coming to London, he thought he was going to get a big contract. And if Saudi Arabia, they're dangling a lot of money at the age of 28, and when he's been playing predominantly in Brazil his whole career, you can't blame him sometimes for that if West Ham aren't offering him the money he wants or deserves. So, yeah, if it happens, like I can see him fitting into the Premier League, to be honest with you, with West Ham or not, but definitely one to watch.
What's his pace like? And the reason I ask is because the other half of Ham's chat, Gonzo, he does like a highlights reel. So he does it with every player we link with. He'll happily sit there and watch it. So he watched one on Bruno, and when I spoke to him, he said he's really slow. He was a bit concerned. Is that the case, or has he got a bit of pace about him?
Yeah, football's all about opinions, isn't it? But I wouldn't agree with that one. I think he's quite pacey, to be honest, for his age, for a centre back. I wouldn't say he was slow at all, to be honest with you. That sounds almost as if like he's been judged on a few minutes rather than a few games.
Don't worry about it. He's watching highlights and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a centre back, you'd be pleasantly surprised with how fast he is, to be honest with you, and for his age and for his build. So, yeah, I disagree with that and wouldn't be a concern of mine.
My concern listening to you is that with Lopetegui as manager, it feels like we'd have more or a better team in terms of retaining possession and more of a side that's willing to pass the ball about. So what you've said in regards to his passing is something that I say surprises me, concerns me, I think would be the right term there. I was expecting you to say that he's a ball playing centre back, and that's why we're looking to bring him in to West Ham. So
no, very, very sort of old school style football. He's not bad with his feet, but I wouldn't trust him like all the time. If you want to get it down and you don't want your centre backs to lump it up the field or look towards your wingers, then there may be some complications. However, if you were looking at him as a squad player for 8, 10, 12 million, whatever the price tag is, in today's market, it's a good price. So, yeah, it's an interesting one to watch if anything sort of reignites, whether he's playing hardball with Saudi Arabia trying to get a bit more money from you guys. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. I don't think it's completely dead. I think obviously if there's interest there for him to leave Flamengo, then clubs will be sniffing. And if West Ham have been out there, maybe there'll be a second offer. Who knows?
Well, Nathan, thank you very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I've learned a lot about all three players, quite frankly, to be honest with you. So thank you for joining me. If you guys at home have enjoyed it, please do drop a like on the video and drop subscribe as well if you're new to the channel. Do check out the Copper Club. I'll put the link to their podcast in the description below. Go head over there and subscribe. You can hear more from Nathan, as well as Cal from Analytics United, our friend Cal. But anyway, thank you very much for joining me, Nathan. Thank you very much.
No, pleasure. Thank you very much.